This map shows the spatial layout of Bairavpur. The illuminated infrastructure naturally clusters away from a massive, pitch-black void, the ruined Haveli. Villagers maintain this strict boundary because of the Aahat, a legend of unseen approaching footsteps that terrorize anyone near the ruins. Over generations, the community internalized this fear. The Haveli functions as a cultural quarantine zone, a physical barrier constructed by the village to hold back a dormant, localized threat. The integrity of a quarantine relies entirely on belief. When a visitor named Reena arrives in Bairavpur, she dismisses the local warnings as simple superstition. Driven by a dare, she crosses the perimeter and enters the ruins alone. Inside the crumbling structure, Reena sweeps her flashlight across the decaying walls. The beam illuminates her own shadow and a second, entirely independent shadow that moves on the wall without a physical source. Before she can process the visual anomaly, heavy, unseen boots sprint directly toward her in the dark. Panicked, she flees the building. Reena survives the dare and returns to her friends. By crossing the boundary and retreating to the populated center, she unknowingly breaks a century-old seal. The localized anomaly transforms into an active, mobile infection. The red lines on our map track the phenomenon as it moves into the village center. The sounds evolve into aggressive, physical manifestations that target specific villagers. Raghu, a local barber returning home, is pursued by a white entity with glowing green eyes. He is found the next day in a state of catatonic shock, unable to recognize his own family. Master Anirudh, a teacher who relies on logic, finds his worldview fractured when he is chased down an empty, desolate road by the deafening sound of heavy boots and a disembodied voice whispering in his ear. In the residential sector, Savita attempts to light her evening courtyard lamp. A sudden, unnatural wind blows out the flame, leaving her in the dark with a woman in a black sari who whispers threats into her ear. Traditional protections prove ineffective. Priest Mohan's exorcism is met with self-moving iron chains, and Amar, the bus driver, finds a faceless passenger waiting on his empty night route. No ritual or distance offers safety. The Aahat operates as an adaptive psychological virus. It reads the specific vulnerabilities of its targets, a priest's faith, a teacher's logic, a driver's isolation, and dismantles their individual worldviews. As the village succumbs to hysteria, the state intervenes by sending DCP Arvind. Arvind is a high-ranking regional law enforcement officer and a rigid rationalist who steps into the chaos to find a worldly explanation for the panic. He conducts a solo investigation of the ruins. His skepticism dissolves the moment an unseen, icy hand rests firmly on his shoulder and a disembodied voice commands him to search the ground beneath his feet. Guided by the anomaly, Arvind organizes a midnight expedition. Alongside Reena, Anirudh, and another local, they breach the rusted iron doors of the Haveli's sealed cellar, descending into a pitch-black subterranean space. Written in blood across the basement walls, they uncover a history of human greed. Lalita, the former matriarch of the estate, was sealed inside this cellar by her husband a century ago so he could seize her financial assets. The Aahat is the residual energy of a victim's dying struggles. Lalita's pacing in that cellar for a century created an echo that still resonates through the streets of Bairavpur. To sever the curse, the group incinerates the Haveli. They believe that by destroying Lalita's physical remains, they can finally terminate the cycle of violence and provide the victim with a sense of peace. The immediate aftermath points to success. The village holds mass prayers in the ashes of the estate. A collective sense of relief washes over Bairavpur as the nights pass quietly without a single auditory anomaly. Days later, Reena sits at the desk in her bedroom. She is studying in a brightly lit, modern space, isolated from the ruins and secure in the knowledge that the physical threat has been destroyed. Then she feels a sudden drop in temperature. From the dark corner of her room, the heavy footsteps of the Aahat slowly step forward. You can burn the earthly source of a haunting to ash, but extreme psychological trauma remains. Once you have truly heard the footsteps in the dark, the unseen shadow will stalk your peripheral vision for the rest of your life.